So you're mad at Rich Bisaccia for the Packers special teams problems. I get it. I'm with you. But he's not the only one to blame for the Packers' issues.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast to iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet, and the show for fans who know what happened, they want to know why, and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. Everyone's mad at Rich Bisaccia, and I understand why. But it's not the whole story. In fact, my pal Justis Mosqueda from Acme Packing Company, my own stomping grounds over at APC, we were having a back and forth on punt returns and decisions, and Matt LaFleur, Rich Bisaccia, and he said, hey, let's record. Just like, let's do this on air. So I said, sure. So let's talk to Justis about Rich Bisaccia and what may surprise you when it comes to his perspective on all of this. Joining me now to talk about everyone's favorite topic and everyone's favorite coach of the Green Bay Packers, Justis Mosqueda from Acme Packing Company. Justis, we're going to talk Rich Bisaccia today. And you reached out because you were like, I want to talk about this. So let's just start there. What do you think is the misconception that you're hoping to right as a wrong here?
Bisaccia has plenty of faults, but I think we're way too quick to jump on a coordinator for issues that are maybe not the coordinator's fault.
Okay.
And I understand that that's like a frustrating thing for fans. I understand special teams is not a high
not everyone's
information
forte, that's for sure.
Yeah. Like, in a lot of ways, you can only do wrong on special teams, right?
Yes, true.
Stuff like that. But there are things that the Packers do uniquely that puts them in bad special teams positions, just from like roster construction standpoint, things like that, things of that nature, that just don't get talked about at all. And
So like what? Give me an example.
You want to go through the pecking order on where Brant Banks would be on the offensive line if everyone was healthy? I counted. It was 13th. So you have your 13th offensive lineman out there on field goal protection. All the other starters that started the week 4 game. So, obviously Zach Tom's not out there, but like Darian Kennard, who's replacing Zach Tom, is out there. All of the starters other than Elton Jenkins are out there. So Elton Jenkins is watching this from the sideline, and you get the block kick. Elton Jenkins magically comes in and is ready to play special teams. And, his first snap of 2025 on special teams at all came immediately after that blocked PAT. When you're down 6 offensive linemen, I think that should have been a red alert to be like, hey, Matt, I'm sorry. You're going to have to give Rich Elton Jenkins. Like, I understand you guys want to do this stuff a certain way in Green Bay, where for the most part, we're getting young guys on the field, and this is our way to kind of do our whole draft and development thing, and it's a rite of passage and all that stuff. And the older guys get rest, and I've seen it talked about as like injury avoidance and stuff like that too, which I think it is at some positions. Field goal protection is not
like,
that.
Some of these
you just gotta have an offensive drive.
Was hurt, and so he's got to come in and play special teams too. Like, ideally, you don't have him doing that,
right? And I get that. We were down 6 offensive linemen. This shouldn't have been a debate, and it's pretty clear that they figured out what the heck the problem was, because they weren't like, Brant Banks, change up your technique and don't allow another field goal to be blocked. They were like, we got to sub him out. We got to go put Jenkins in, right? So there's certain things like that I think hurt this team in general. You can look at like people talk about the injury rates and stuff like that, and okay, kind of, but like you look at teams that are like willing to compete, right? Like Cooper DeJean is out there returning punts for the Philadelphia Eagles in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Richard Sherman had like 4 All Pros and was still playing punt jammer for the Seattle Seahawks team that was trying to win multiple rings, right? Penei Sewell is playing field goal for the Detroit Lions right now. It's not like they can lose Penei Sewell, right? Like this stuff happens around the league. The Packers treat special teams differently than everyone else. And that's why you see the Packers consistently be ranked, 32nd in the league, especially since 2011 when the new CBA came in.
Yeah.
And the rules change on what you can do in practice and how much practice time you have with these guys, how much time you guys have, or how much time you have with these guys in the summer and all that stuff. Also, but just you're doing the math there. That's right after the Packers Super Bowl.
Well, and the joke that I've been making all week is like, I can name the core special teamers on the 1996 team. Like I remember Lamont Hollingquest. Like they had guys who you knew year in and year out, they were going to be core special teams players. It just seems like, at least in Green Bay, and I would say around the league for the most part, that's just not a thing anymore for reasons that I guess I don't quite understand. Part of it is, I think to your point, the draft and develop ethos in Green Bay. Like when you have Luke Musgrave, Ben Sims, and Tucker Kraft as the only tight ends on your roster, in 2023, you're going to have to play 2 rookies on the edge and field goal protect. And these are guys that are just coming to the NFL. That makes it tough, right? Like that's part of the issue here. The thing is like when they brought in Dallin Leavitt and Keyshawn Nixon to be core special teamers, it didn't get better.
They got better.
I mean, they did accidentally because they stumbled into Keyshawn Nixon as the best kick returner in the NFL, but like that's a different thing.
Well, their coverage units have gotten better too. Which kind of like if you look at like DVOA and stuff gets so muddied in special teams. And again, this is like another thing where it's like you kind of have to get a little bit more granular with this stuff. And I understand fans aren't doing that because why the hell would they? Right.
No. But that's why you are. And that's why I appreciate that you
are. Yeah. But like their coverage units got a whole lot better. Especially under Bisaccia. Like we're not letting guys have, rip running returns. There was the one from space on his name, Turpin from the Cowboys. We can put a pin in that and come back to that in a second. But like the Turpin from the Cowboys one was Javon Bullard ran into Nyman. And like, so like, that stuff is designed correctly. It was just Bullard basically ended up blocking his own teammate on that play. And that stuff happens sometimes. To the Turpin point, like if you want to talk about like a returner or something like that and how the Packers differentiate from the rest of the league and sort of, the same things that we're talking about, like Matt LaFleur likes like 200-pound wide receivers who get after and block. Turpin is listed, I think, at like 153 pounds.
Yeah.
And first 2 years in the league, he was just a punt returner.
That's not just a LaFleur thing either. Like, that's a Gutekunst thing. That's a Wolf thing. They just haven't had those body types on the roster very often.
The receivers have gotten bigger under LaFleur, though. I'm willing to put some of this on the front office for sure. Like I don't know necessarily if it's how much of it's front office driven, how much of it's driven by Matt being like, no, you can't use Keyshawn on returns. We want to develop Matthew Golden, Savion Williams. Savion Williams on offense is only doing gadget plays right now, so we have to justify him being on the 58 or the 48-man game day roster somehow. So we're going to make him a kick returner, and he's going to run the gadget plays. Because if he only did the gadget plays, maybe he's not up for me on game day, right? So I understand it could be one of two. Who?
Why isn't Savion the punt returner then?
Savion's massive for a punt return. I don't think that they would.
Well, I mean, I get it, but the bar to clear right now is can you catch a punt on the fly? Matthew Golden can't even do that.
Well, the Dallas game, it wasn't great for Savion in terms of fielding balls. He let 3 hit the ground at the 1 yard line and then need it at the 20, which Matt, I mean, correctly in the press conference kind of said like, we treat those as like losses of 10 yards. And that's true. Cause you should be bringing those things out to the 30. Savion's gotten, I think, 10 kick returns. He's returned 1 past 30 that wasn't flagged. It's not been good for Savion either. So,
yeah. All right, more sexy special teams talk next with Justis Mosqueda on Locked On Packers. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. The Packers open as 13.5 point favorites this week. Well, next week against the Cincinnati Bengals. I think it was 2.5, 3.5 as a look ahead line. Now, this was a while ago. This was the original line opened with Joe Burrow involved, and before the wheels have seemed to totally fall off the Cincinnati Bengals team. But if you like the Packers, $5 could turn into $300 in bonus bets on FanDuel. So what are you waiting for? Go to FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIH's Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else as of August. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings the same attention to how they craft every model. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. Like the Packers, or at least the way you'd like the Packers to do it, Mazda sweats every detail. Because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. I yearn for the days of Allen Rossum and Raul Preston and the guys of a Packers day that was not the heyday by any means, but they had these special teams players. Why not Bo Melton then? Because he is closer to that body type. He's a the perfect kind of player who usually is the kind of punt returner you're talking about. He's wide receiver 6. He's cornerback 5. Like, those are the kind of end of roster guys that are usually doing this job.
Okay.
And we're not watching practice either. Like, we don't know how he is fielding punts.
Yeah. Yes. But I mean, they have him out on kick return. He's like one of the lead guys on kick return. Sometimes he gets balls kicked to him on kick return. Like, they basically have 2 guys that are back there, right? You have the 9 that are lined up on the line of scrimmage. Then you have 2 guys that are back there. Bo Melton is like the second returner a lot of the times. I bet that he could do it. Here's the problem. Pete, how many cornerbacks do they have up on the 48 right now?
Yeah, you're right. Okay.
How many of them do they play on special teams? And how many of them are available to play punt jammer? So if you want to do that, you can have Bo Melton go return punts, but he's jamming the gunner right now. Yeah. So is Keyshawn going to go jam it? Is Hobbs going to go jam it? Because they're having CV and Melton out there right now. So
we do see receivers play punt jammer, though. We've seen that. Like, you could have Savion do that, I guess.
Maybe. They tried him with Gunner and he couldn't get off the line of scrimmage. Yeah. So I don't know how good his ability to jam at the line of scrimmage and then flip his hips is.
I think it is. I think you're right to say it is low-hanging fruit, and I'm just like throwing out ideas. And I'm sure in meetings, in practice,
fine.
Those things are happening. They're trying to iterate and figure out all of this stuff. It's just like, when it's not working, I think the easiest reaction from everybody is to say, this is a coaching problem. And I think you are right to say it is not. I would alter and say it's not just a coaching problem. There is a personnel issue that the Packers are having to overcome. The thing is, and you wrote this piece for Acme Packing Company, like, the Packers don't care about special teams and never will. I remember Cassidy Hill wrote this beautiful piece a couple of years ago about how everything was different now. Rich Bisaccia was coming in and he was having say, and the culture was changing. What you're saying is, sorry, no, it isn't.
I think some of it is. You mentioned like Don Levitt. I don't think that they signed him under Ted, right?
Yeah.
Nyman is really the only like special teams only guy on this team outside of, punter, kicker, long snapper. I don't think
they had drafted guys like that. Like those three Carpenters.
Yes.
Yeah. And that just didn't work. He just couldn't play.
Yeah. They just couldn't figure it out with him. So I think some of it has changed. I do think that they emphasize it a little bit more, but they're not like, I had a stat. It was, I think Matthew Golden's been kicked the ball 14 times. He's caught it 5, and that's on putts.
And a couple of them have been in front of him. And like, those are the ones where you're just what are we doing?
Yeah, or he's off by 20 yards and he's late to do the point, yelling Peter, 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 and it's like, dude, one of these is going to
not my favorite call in football.
One of these balls is going to bounce off the ground and clip one of your teammates' calves, and it's going to be a turnover. Like, this is going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not a good situation. Like, you can have Keyshawn back there and just fair catch. And by the way, when they have gotta have it situations at end of games, and they're like, we just need someone to catch this thing, they're throwing Keyshawn out there and Romeo Doubs, right?
Yeah.
So I know Matt gave the coach cliche line yesterday. We're recording this on Wednesday, so he said this on Tuesday. He gave the cliche line of like, why do you have those guys out there returning these kicks and stuff? And he was like, well, they give us the best chance to win. And then someone pressed him and was like, hey, but is it a little bit of them just like taking their lumps and stuff too? And he's like, oh yeah, that's absolutely it. And it's like, just be honest with us, man. Like, you're using this as developmental reps, but there's like this weird, it's like butting of heads between like the draft and develop mentality that is just like deeply ingrained in Green Bay. And it's, turned out pretty good results, right? That we can pretty much all admit. And then this mentality of like, yes, let's ramp up the urgency and we're going to go be, Goliath for this season. And it's cost 2 wins already.
Yeah.
It's cost us 2 wins already on special teams. And it's mostly personnel based.
Okay. And I was talking to Jeff Jagosinski about this, who's on our Locked On Packers squad shows, former offensive line coach. And so he was saying these field goal blocks, or the field goal protect, you basically can't rep them at full speed in practice. Like, that's like from a developmental standpoint, it's nearly impossible. And so it's sort of like you need the reps in games to get better at this. And so isn't part of this that they do just have to take their lumps? Like, I understand if it's going to cost you games, that sucks, but you kind of do have to take your lumps a little bit, don't you?
Okay. I can understand it from the returner standpoint. The offensive line standpoint, Brant Banks isn't on the 53 today.
Yeah.
What developmental reps? He's not on the team. Like, this is your 13th offensive lineman. You're going to get guys back. Like, sorry, Elton, you got to play. You got to play this week. Like that. Yeah. That should have been as soon as Anthony Belton went down, it should have been like, look, this is the kind of the hand that we're being played right now. I will say, I want to put a pin on the returner developmental thing. I'll get back to it. But I will say, like, one of the big things on Bisaccia, I think, in this game, why are you having Brant Banks take the 2-on-1 in that situation? So the way that it's explained, and the way I thought that it was, I thought it was going to happen in a different way. That, the block and the protection and the blame and all that stuff. I thought it was Luke Musgrave didn't step down.
Yeah.
Because a lot of field goal protection, if you get an overload front, what they'll have is, everyone steps down and the furthest guy on the outside is the guy you turn loose because it's the furthest path to the block.
That's what Jags was saying. He thought Musgrave should have stepped down.
That is what I thought. Matt, the way Matt explained it, and he said tight end. So I think people thought that he meant, Packers.com roster tight end Luke Musgrave.
Yes.
Luke Musgrave is playing the wing in that position. It's actually Brant Banks playing the quote unquote tight end spot, right? He's the third guy out from the center. And he's like, yeah, you have to get that outside arm out and lock the guy. And we'd seen it the first play. I go back and watch the film. You see the exact same thing. So what they asked Brant Banks to do was take on a guy full strength and with one hand, and then stick his outside arm out and basically try to influence the D-gap defender that way. And on the second play, he just never stuck that arm out. If you go back and you watch the first PAT attempt, he actually does do that.
But to your point, he's the 13th offensive lineman on the team, and you're
13th offensive lineman. Yes. And you know what? There's certain things like special teams isn't like offense. You can't motion. You can't do these things to create mismatches. You can't bump guys over. Like, if they're like, we're going to line up on your weak link, that's what's happening. That's what's happening in that play. They should have adjusted on the second one if they knew that was coming. And I'll put that 100% on Rich if they're like, dude, screw this. We're not going to have Brant Banks take the 2-on-1. We're just going to see if we can get this kickoff faster than, the guy screaming off of the edge.
And I think to your point, like it is both true that if any team in the league had to play their 13th offensive lineman in that spot and ask them to play that technique, it's probably going to be an issue, right? For
Yes.
every team in the league. You're saying just don't have it be Brad Banks. You have a really good offensive lineman on the bench who's not in on that play, who could have been handling that responsibility or could have been playing somewhere else so that a different player handles that responsibility.
100%. And we've seen this even with the field goal unit. Like they have like a gotta have it personnel, and then they have like we want to give guys rest personnel. Rest, injury risk, whatever. Like the end of the Cleveland game, they have like Tucker Kraft and guys like that in that they weren't playing throughout the rest of the game because it was a last second field goal attempt or last minute field goal attempt and all that stuff, right? So Kraft is also one of the guys who came in after they made the substitutions after the block in Dallas. Back to the returner thing that I'm taking the pin out of the returner.
Yes, okay,
where
great.
you were talking about, okay, developmental reps, like don't you you have to take these lumps, all this stuff. Where was this in the preseason? Xavier Williams got 0 returns in the preseason as a kick returner. Matthew Golden got 0 returns in the preseason as a punt returner. So if these are your only live snaps, why can't we use these guys in the preseason too?
And they played guys in the preseason. That's the thing. Like if you're going to play guys, play guys.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So it wasn't like, I don't even think Bo Melton was back there. I think it was just Israel Abanikanda was like the kick returner, and then the punt returner was Mecole Hardman. Neither of those guys are on the team.
I thought Abanikanda might make the team just because he took so many kick returns. I was like, okay, I guess I guess he's the kick returner. All right, still more to come here with Justis Mosqueda on Locked On Packers. The NFL season back in full swing, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. And let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle. I just did this. Between queues, login screens, and prices jumping at checkout, it's frustrating. I bought tickets to a game taking my family to a game with some friends and their family. And guess what? There's a lot of things that you have to take into account. I got to find the best value. I want to make sure that the seats have the view that I think they do. All that stuff is vital when you're deciding where to sit, how much to pay, all that stuff. That's why I use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Gametime is fast, easy, and backed by the Gametime guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. So why isn't Mecole Hardman on the team, Justis?
So he would have been, a 7th receiver?
I guess.
Again, Matt doesn't like guys who are built like punt returners, right? Historically, I think I ran the numbers. I think
unless they're actually the punt returner.
Yeah, well, Pete, I'm on your team, but like Matt's wide receivers, if you look at it like, per snap and adjust for their weight, right? The number that we're working with in Green Bay over his entire tenure is 207 pounds at the receiver position. Most punt returners are 180 or less. Turpin is 153, right? We just went over that. So even in the preseason,
I'm 6'3", 207, just for the record. I'm like,
I'm 5'8", and NA. We're not talking about. But so like Hardman, right, was only playing the slot for him in the same way Jaden Reed only plays in the slot for Matt, because he's looking at 180 pounders and 190 pounders, and he's like, there's slot only in my offense, right? Yeah. So that's where I'm like,
he let Jaden return punts.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. But that's what I mean. Like even like the bigger punt return build to him is he's like, it's a very limited role in my offense, right? So there's not much wiggle room. The justification for Hardman would have been, okay, he's going to be on the field as a punt returner, maybe potentially as a kick returner. But then offensively, he'd basically just be Jaden Reed's backup, which I know he's banged up right now, right? But at the 53-man deadline, I'm sure that they're like, we probably can't justify a slot-only backup when we're also trying to get, Golden and Wicks on the field, and both of those guys can play inside and outside for this team, right?
When you have better depth, though, like they signed Nate Hobbs, they have Carrington Valentine.
Mm-hmm.
Now they have 3 legitimate outside corners. Why not Keyshawn Nixon? Unless Key just doesn't want to do it.
He went back there for a punt in game this season, right? And
but that's a little different. Like Charles Woodson used to return punts in like safe, gotta have it situations for the Packers. Like I get it. Odell Beckham was a punt returner and then wasn't, and then in big situations was, right? Antonio Brown returned punts for the Steelers in the fourth quarter.
Keyshawn worked it in the summer. Keyshawn said in the summer he's okay with doing it, and that he was just blowing a gasket at the end of the season because he was disappointed about stuff. I'm inclined to believe that's a call from the head coach. And if, again, 5 of 14 balls punted to Golden doesn't wake you up. Savion kneeling, 3 kicks that were downed in the end zone and were basically minus 10 yards for the offense doesn't wake you up, then I don't know what will. But Matt went on the podium on Tuesday and was like, yeah, we're not making a change to either of our returners. So
do you think forget Green Bay for a second, just like zoom out, because I know that you are in this stuff. Do you think we will see league-wide a change in the way teams allocate resources to returns, especially on kickoffs, when we're seeing Dallas, Carolina, LA, what is it called? The dirty kickoff. Like this is real. Like the difference between the 20 and the 35, that's 3 plays for some teams. Like that's a huge difference.
Yeah. Massive. I think from a personal standpoint, it kind of goes 2 ways, because you're always going to have the defenders to be able to cover kickoffs, right? I think what you're going to see is more of a focus on returners, right? Obviously. And then the other thing that you're going to see is like, and we saw this kind of a little bit at the cutdown deadline, those tight ends that you're keeping at like tight end 2, tight end 3, tight end 4, those guys are going to have to be blockers, because they're going to have to help you on the kick return unit. And you saw a lot of these guys who like Dulcich, Wiley, who the Packers picked up. Like these are guys who were kind of developmental projects for other teams that they wanted them to be, grow into prolific pass catchers or something like that. But they really struggled to get on the field on special teams. And the team said, hey, with these rule changes, we just can't justify you getting this roster spot. But that's the Packers practice squad guy, right? So if they get rid of Ben Sims to call a guy up off of IR, like he'd be the next guy up for this Packers team. And it's another one of these things where it's like the draft and develop, man. Like, meanwhile, Messiah Swinson is getting picked up by another team because they're like, yeah, of course. Like he's a blocker. If something goes down, like you're going to fill that role as a blocker more than you're going to get thrown the ball. The Packers have Luke Musgrave right now. I think he played like, I don't even want to speak out of turn on that. It's like 27 snaps or something on the offensive side this past game. He got 6 yards. They split him out at receiver a ton. They can't get him the ball.
And I think he's been playing more as a blocker than as a route runner in terms of like the role that he's playing in the offense. And I don't know if it was you and I going back and forth, it might have been someone else, but it's like, if he's going to be tight end 2 and just be a blocker, you need a new tight end 2. Like that's the problem with where the Packers roster is right now with Luke Musgrave, because he's just not that.
Yeah. But I mean, again, you're year 3 in the developmental cycle. You're not going to give that guy a roster contract extension, but they're still, trying to squeeze blood out of the stone of draft and develop. We took him in the 2nd round. What do you mean that he's not going to produce for us? So that's where we're at right now, man. Yeah, there's a lot of things that contribute to kind of where they're at in special teams. I think, having 4 corners up isn't great. Wide receiver, I think that they're just not trying to get used to Malik Heath being available for them, because I think, everyone could see the writing on the wall where it's like some of these guys are going to come up from the injury list and Malik Heath is probably going to be out. So they're giving developmental reps to other guys. Like Lucas Van Ness is playing on the kickoff return team as a blocker for example. I think that's just kind of the route that they're going right now. Emmanuel Wilson not
Wasn't he
contributing
playing
on
punt
special
protect
teams.
too?
Oh yeah, LVN has been punt protect since he's been here in Green Bay. Yeah, it's him and Agbare, the linebackers, and then some of the safeties. Like Evan Williams right now is playing personal protector on punt team, so that Zane Anderson can actually be a gunner, because they struggled a whole lot at the beginning of the season at gunner. They try to have Savion Williams. We mentioned that already. Didn't work out. They try to throw out Javon Bullard out there. He had a vice, I think, can't remember if it was week 1 or week 2, but he couldn't get 5 yards downfield. He's getting double teamed, and he just couldn't break it at all. So Bo Melton getting back and Zane Anderson being moved basically from like punt protector to punt gunner really helped them out in the punt game.
The moral of the story is bring back Jeff Janis and all will be well, I think is what you're saying. That's what I hear. Justis, we will continue to read all of your work over at Acme Packing Company, and appreciate the time, man.
Yes, sir. It's not all on Bisaccia. Some of the stuff has been on Bisaccia, but it's not all on Bisaccia.
All right. We'll call off the dogs a little, maybe.
My big issue is like, if we can Bisaccia, what this team is going to do, because they're not going to be able to go to market and get a big time special teams coordinator, because the way that it's going to be viewed in the league is like, wow, they really let Rich hang out to dry. They're going to do like an internal hire, and then the front office
and whole staff is his guys, so they can't do the internal hire.
They're not. Maybe they don't fire all of them. I don't know, but they're going to throw their hands up and they're going to say special teams is more trouble than it's worth, and we'll just be 32nd and just keep the draft and develop thing going.
Maybe you're right. All right, Justis. Thanks for the half positivity, half deep cynicism. I appreciate that. Thanks. All right, thanks to Justis for joining the show. Always great to talk with him. It's been a while since we talked to Justis. Thanks for making Locked On Packers your first listen to the NFL season. Finally here for your second listen. Get a double dose of the Locked On NFL podcast. Tyler the Madman Rowland gets you a shot of espresso to start your football day, while Tony Wiggins takes you to the barbershop for the smoothest breakdowns to end the day. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We are back tomorrow to round out this week on Locked On Packers, the bye week. A little self-scout, try to figure out where this Packers team can get better as we head into the next week. Cincinnati Bengals travel to Lambeau Field coming off a bye. Jake Browning, not Joe Burrow. It is a big damn difference. So follow me on the social medias, follow the podcast on the social medias, subscribe wherever you get podcasts. Our squad show, it's in your feed right now. It's also going to be live on YouTube Wednesdays, moving forward, 7 even Lambeau time. 7 Central every Wednesday. And then, of course, live after the game on Sunday. No squad show this Sunday because there's no game. But subscribe on YouTube so you can always watch us there and stay locked on Packers.